1, 2, mic check, check, check. Party people in the place to be.
Mr. Brim, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Ket.
Of course. And so we want to jump right into it. For those of you that are out there that do not know Mr. Brimstone, we're going to learn all about his illustrious career and his path tonight. And so I'm just going to read a bit of your bio here, Mr. Brim, so that folks know what we're getting into this evening. And so Seth Brimstone Schere embodies hip-hop's can't stop, won't stop attitude. He is the creative director and co-founder of PATH, which stands for Preserving, Archive, and Teaching Hip-Hop, Inc., a non-profit devoted to cultural preservation. Big ups for that.
Yeah.
And Sober Studios, a therapeutic music program for people in recovery. Double props for that. Since the late 80s, Brimstone has been shaping Miami scene as an artist, engineer, performer, and producer. And so Brim, as we're going to be calling you tonight, Mr. Brim, stands for Born and Raised in Miami. He was receiving praise as a playwright and performer by his teachers since elementary school, and he has never stopped, apparently. And so he was a writer, and he was widely recognized as an all-city writer and elected president of STB Crew from 90 to 94 in Miami. And so you go way back. It's a collective of 4 decades of art history, which began in New York City. And eventually you moved on and became an MC and then became a producer. And you're going to have lots of stories to tell us about your years in the 90s as a member of Plan B and as an engineer and a musician. And then, of course, PATH, which we're very, very excited to hear about. And I'm excited to share all of that with our audience. But let's, I guess, start at the beginning for you. You know, maybe not at the very beginning, but at the beginning of your discovery of writing and of this whole graffiti world that we all have come to know, especially in Miami. And Miami's known for it today more than ever. But you were there a very, very long time ago, or here a very long time ago. So when did you personally discover writing culture and graffiti?
I discovered writing culture 83, 84. I would say the thing that cemented my understanding of hip hop culture in general was the movie Beat Street. That was definitely, it showed me that MCing, B-boying, DJing, and graffiti and knowledge, wisdom, and understanding all belong together for the culture. So growing up, the first thing I actually did after seeing Beat Street, I know already I was involved, I was listening to rap music because Africa Bambaataa and the Soul Sonic Force was playing. UTFO, not much later. And so LL Cool J, Run DMC, all that music is what inspired me to understand how the culture itself belonged together. So in elementary school, the way I like to describe it, I went to Gloria Floyd Elementary, which was kind of in the Falls area, possibly called Pinecrest now, Kendall, definitely Kendall. And Gloria Floyd Elementary in 1983, everybody sat in their own segregated areas. The white kids over here, the black kids over here, Hispanic kids over here. And then in 1984, after Run DMC, the school was still segregated, but from the black brothers and sisters, a few would come and join this circle here. From the whites, from the Hispanics, and all of a sudden we had this new crew called hip hop. And that was around 84, and that was when I first really knew I was all sold out for this culture.
Amazing. And then so where'd you take the step from experiencing on film and what was happening in your school to actually going out and writing?
Well, right after I saw Beat Street, there was like a fluorescent orange can in my garage. So I just went and took that fluorescent can, and right in front of my house I wrote Sir Jam, real big, a tag on the floor. Obviously like a fluorescent orange. My dad's asking, where did this come from? We have orange paint. I'm talking about, I don't know what he's talking about. That's where it began. That's where all the conniving, destructive behavior began, right there. 127th Street.
Got it. And so were there other kids that also ended up getting the bug with Beat Street that you knew about in school?
Absolutely. I mean, Miami, there was definitely hip hop culture that existed before Miami. I was too young to know about that culture. So to find out about that, you talk to brothers like Speedy Legs, yes, Chillski. You talk to the brothers from that era that can tell you what was going on. When Beat Street dropped in 84, I was 10 years old. So hip hop was alive in elementary school as we knew it and as we experienced it. right?
I understand. I understand. So when did you go from this sort of, young elementary school kid that fell in love with it to your identity as Brim? How did that come about?
So in junior high, I'm probably in ninth grade, Arvida Junior High School. To the left of me, or actually to the right of me, there's this brother, and he's catching tags, and he's doing get-ups and fill-ins. And I'm like, this looks like the real thing. I recognize, I see what I see on the walls. I know when I see real graffiti. I know what it looks like in B Street. I know what it looks like on the walls. This brother right here is doing that exact same thing. So I say, yo, do you write? He goes, no, but my brother does. He was kind of foul. But then he was like, what's up? So I said, yo, can you draw my name? He said, if you give me 25 cents, I need to get some milk. So that's how my long-time friendship started with my brother Dunn. He took me under his wing right there in Arvida Junior High. It started showing me the ropes of actually not just graffiti, but hip hop again. Because there was a time between the Run DMC B Street era and being in junior high where I got heavily involved in skateboarding and skateboard culture. So I kind of fell out of touch with what was going on in the hip hop world. So Jimmy Dunn started hitting me off with DJ Red Alert mixtapes. He started hitting me off with Chuck Chill Out, Cool Chip mixtapes. And from there, I was just sold out. What Dunn did was he gave me my first tag, which was Haze 9. And then eventually he gave me the tag Brim. He brought me to, this is still in junior high going into high school now. So probably the summer of 88, the summer of 88. He brings me to Dadeland for an AIM crew meeting. I had no idea what a graffiti writer meeting was like. And as I come, everybody's kind of, I was this white kid with this blonde bangs here with black hair dyed looking crazy. And they were all kind of staring at me, and Dunn said, yo, listen, if you don't respect my brother, you're not respecting me. And right there, this was all the AIM crew. I'll tell you, Seal was in the house, Mech was in the house, Doze was in the house, Foe was in the house, Mir was in the house. And these are the kids I'm meeting, like, not kids, these guys were the kings of the city, at least down south. Anywhere from downtown Miami all the way south to Homestead, these were all the cats that were just kings running South Miami, running it. So I met all them the same day. And what happens that day is we go on a little mission, and Seal had this, he was like this mastermind that you could tell he would tell people what to do, and everyone just knew you got to listen to Seal and we're going to get it done. So Seal's like pointing for Foe. We head out to Dayland North train station. Seal's pointing to Foe. He's like, yo, go over there. And then he tells all of us to follow him across the street. So we go across the street. There was a Toys R Us there back then. I don't really know what's going on. I just know something's about to happen. So we see Foe now. He's up on top of the Metro Rail, waving like this. He runs, dashes down the exit, throws open the door. We all run up in and say, oh, so this is how we get on the Metro Rail. Boom. As soon as the Metro Rail takes off, Waterbed City rooftop on the right. This became, and Seal is like Walter Cronkite. And over here you have a piece by AIM, a piece by RA. This person has beef with this person. And now we're going from South Miami all the way to Homestead. I'm sorry, all the way to Hialeah. I remember seeing the Born to Burn piece by 7 Up with my own eyes that day. It's like it's graffiti, art, and culture came alive on the train to me that day. And I was like, this is it. I'm going in.
Amazing. Amazing. And so you're describing, the very early days of you being a writer, and the rooftops. Was the rooftops primarily where people would get to see burners in Miami?
Illegal burners, absolutely. The rooftops was like a whole world that you wouldn't know existed unless you got on a train. And I think the writers really knew that. Real writers knew, yo, if you want it, it's like an art gallery. It's like the living testament. Because on the street you wouldn't see those kind of burners and those kind of pieces. You know what I'm saying? The rooftops was just, it was like having a photo album, but in real life, and you would watch it by while you're on a train. And then we would be on the train destroying it. Picture 8, 9, 10 cats that are already all sitting inside a train together, usually an empty train, and it was just bananas. It was crazy.
So you're getting into this, you're in junior high school. What was the reaction from your family? Did they know?
Oh man, my mom, there's another brim tag. Like, she would point out every brim tag. She did not like it whatsoever. I think it was very, you know, in retrospect, I was sneaking out, stealing, hanging out at all hours of the night, doing whatever I was doing. And they definitely were not feeling that. What my father was feeling though was my artistic voice. He was someone who always encouraged me to be artistic, to go for my dreams, my desires, and make that happen. So I give thanks to God for both my parents. My mom definitely was not with it. She's still not with it to this day, really, to be honest with you, brother.
And so you're hanging out with this crew. How did you start to learn to paint? Where did you get style from, or what were you looking at that you said, okay, I'm going to go in this direction, or I'm going to go in that direction?
It's really dope because I'm truly a product of AIM crew. So for example, Dunn taught me how to be a writer, the philosophy, how to actually be a writer. Seal taught me how to organize, how to think beyond just a writer, how to organize a crew. He was preparing me to be a crew leader. I didn't know this at the time. Mech just taught me street culture. He taught me about ultramagnetic MCs. Let's just stop there, right? Doze taught me about feelings. Mir taught me my get-ups. Taught me how to put arrows in pieces. So I really was just like Foe as well, taught me some more. It's like I was a product of just AIM crew, for real. And to me, and maybe I'm just biased, and from the South, they were the best crew from the South for us. As us growing up, that's who we were looking up to because they were in our neighborhoods, getting up already.
Got it. And so eventually you form, or I don't even know what's the story behind STV, because in a lot of the images that I receive from you, I see STV a lot. And I remember STV as a crew from Brooklyn, New York City. What's the story behind STV and you and Miami?
So I'll give you the truncated version. There was a brother of ours named BK, the Brass King. He actually ended up, he was traveling back and forth from New York to Miami. And he lived in Dunn's apartments, and him and Dunn met, and me and BK met also, but we didn't meet together. And we found out we were all together, and BK was pushing a crew called Brass, Brooklyn's Righteous and Superior Sons, and STV, Specialized to Vandalize. And BK was getting us to push STV and just like push things and catch tags together. Dunn was kind of already, I think, on his way out of writing. But, oh, actually, no, Dunn wasn't on his way out of writing yet. So we're working on this burner. If you come across the Stop Crack, I don't know if you have pictures of that one, because that's what this whole piece comes down to. So BK had us pushing Brass, had us pushing STV. It was just like fun crews. It wasn't something that was really taken to heart yet. So I had a writing partner named Val, V-O-W, and me and Val used to find walls that were in public places and go there and paint them and pretend like they were legal walls. So we would even have like a document saying that the owner allows us to be there and so on and so forth. This particular wall was on 117th Avenue, like around between 120th and 128th Street Southwest. It was a place we called Mr. B's Hill. So on day one, we're rocking a Stop Crack, a Say No to Drugs. So if cops come or anyone comes, we say, oh, this is legal. That's why we're doing it. Seal comes out, Foe comes out, and we're working on this big piece, top to bottom, end to end. On day two, Doze is working on it with us, Foe, Mir, the whole AIM crew is there, me, Val. And by the time we finish the piece, Dunn and his cousin Center pull up. And they're like, yo, Center just stole his dad's car. We're going to New York. He can't go home now. Let's go. So Foe and Seal jump in the car with Center and Dunn. There may be one other that was with them. And they just drive straight up to New York. They end up at BK, the Brass King's house in Brooklyn, who lives with his family. He's like, what am I going to do with a bunch of these hoodlums? I'm going to introduce you to DS. They take him to DS. DS, they take the crew, BK takes the crew to DS. DS takes the whole crew around for the entire weekend, introduces them to Punk, Chino. They're just in graffiti heaven. They racked food for the Miami boys, gave them clothes when they were cold. And the last thing DS told them when they were going back was like, yo, this is STV is a brotherly love movement, push STV. So when they got, that's to the best of my remembrance, when they got back to Miami, Seal and the rest of the crew had the idea, well, let's make STV a unification of other crews. So the first iteration of the STV, I call it the STV umbrella, was AIM, FA, then RA, WBB, and last was Bomb Crew. So all 5 of these crews would push Bomb STV, AIM STV, FA STV. And that's how they show their unification, like all the Southwest crews are united. And WBB was actually from North Miami. So it was pulling together different crews, right? A writer named Much and myself were together all the time. And Seal put me and Much as the first 2 writers to be an STV crew that weren't affiliated with any of the other crews. So we're the first official STV members that aren't in any of the crews. You understand what I'm saying, Kat? Check, check. You hear me? Sorry, do you hear me?
I can.
Yo, yo.
Yes.
Okay, cool. So I was saying that Much and I were the first members to be in the crew that weren't part of the umbrella. So to take it into the next phase of the crew, I put down writers like Rage. Rage was the first writer I put down in the crew. My neighbor was Boost, so he was kind of like automatically just down. Stir was another writer I put in, and Twice was another writer I put in. Those were kind of like the main first drafts of when I was early crew leader. I'm sorry, yeah, when I was early crew leader. The way I became crew leader was Seal and Dunn came to it was in front of my cousin's house. And they say, yo, we want you to be in Blunt Kings. And Blunt Kings was like, all these crews now started having these little crews inside that showed like who was really tight with each other. So like 3Ds was Dunn, Doze, and DK, and TBK was the Blunt Kings, and they had Heineken Kings. And there was all these little crews inside of littler crews. So they're like, yo, we want to put you down with Blunt Kings, but you got to smoke a blunt with us. I've never smoked and up until that age, that time, I didn't smoke weed yet. And I was like, nah, man, I don't want to smoke. And then Seal right there say, yo, then you're the president of STV crew. And then boom, that was it. The crew became mine, and that's when the history started as STV as its own entity outside of the umbrella.
Amazing. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, yeah, man.
Great. And so STV, I still see it today. You know, how did that happen?
I'm gonna tell you how it happened, my brother. First of all, to me, everything is just by the grace of the Most High. But the lineage, I'm gonna start with Seal, because Seal saw something in me that he knew he had to give the crew to me. I saw something in Twice that I knew I had to give the crew to Twice. Like, you just know, you're rocking with people for so long, and you just know, you're like, that's who's getting the crew next. You feel it. And what happened with me was I was expanding outside of just graffiti, and I wanted us to do other things. I was trying to talk to them about books, about t-shirts, and I have to respect the crew, because the crew was like, no, man, we're straight street bombers. We're all city graffiti writers. They don't care about pretty pieces. They weren't into any of that at the time. They're like, we are just straight bombers. And I had to say, yo, I have to respect that. Here you go, and do what you need to do with it. I think the same thing is Twice made the right decision to put it into GA's hands. And however, I don't know how it kept going and going, but eventually it became a committee. And that committee started making decisions. So they're 40 years in the game. And if you add, DS up north, we're in effect since 1984. That piece right there is in the Hialeah Pennant. KV, sorry I went over you, you know what I mean? Love you though. That was when the Hialeah Pennant, you could actually find wall space, believe it or not. The TVC 7-Up, the way they had that place looking by the time it was done was ridiculous, yo.
So
layers. Sorry, go ahead.
No, so it's quite remarkable for a crew to last so long, and that leadership that you're talking about, selecting the right people that have leadership ability, I would imagine charisma, talent, and able to bring people together is incredibly important. And obviously STV has done that. I still see it today. It's around, it's alive. You know, in New York, I always thought of it as a small crew, but in Miami, it really grew up to be a significant crew and a major crew.
Yeah.
You know, it's truly remarkable to hear how it all comes together, and how for generations and generations it's been passed down. Mm-hmm. And so at some point you start to, well, actually you mentioned the Hialeah Pennant. right? Which is this, where this is located. For those of us out here that do not know, what is the Hialeah pennant exactly?
Wow.
And
There's some brothers in this chat right now that be able to answer that even better than me. I know the first time I went out there, I went there with, I think, DK, with Doze, and it was pretty bare. DK did this piece that said power with $100 bill as the fill-in. Like that's the day I did a BR there. But it was like just this huge warehouse connected to another warehouse, just big rooms. I remember Doze brought a gun for us to be there. That wasn't things I was used to, because I was like, why would you need a gun to go to a place to paint? And it was just like cats was walking around with bats. But it was I never had any problems there. And it was a place you could go paint with your crew and just learn, and you know, by that time, like I see that STV piece, the walls were just covered top to bottom with every color you could think of. You know, that looks like that's the first layer of a Getup. That outline was actually by Mir too. So it just became a place that everyone eventually painted.
got it. And so you're using some words that perhaps, you know, many of our audience isn't familiar with, and even for me, it's you know, it's a very local sort of word system that you guys have here. And so you said Hialeah pennant. Pennant, I've come to discover, is short for penitentiary. And now you use the word Getup. What is a Getup for those of us that don't know?
A Getup is like, I like to think of it as exactly what you see. It has a little bit of style. It's just one color, fill in, one outline. That's what we call Getups. Whereas a throw up is like, you know, like a quick, fast bubble letter. A Getup has a little bit more style. It's kind of like piece letters, but you didn't fill them in and they're not too wild.
Got it. And so when did you decide that you wanted to start moving away from piecing or embalming to doing other things, and what was that like for you?
Well, it really came down to this meeting I did have with the crew. I had a crew called Plan B, and we were recording music. My man Trek 6 was in there, first MC partner. His name was Oski. There was another brother with me called Sweet Pea. And we were rhyming all around Killian. Now, Killian Senior High, a few things I want to say about Killian. It was reported that we had the most graffiti writers in our school other than any other school in all of the city by like the gang detective police and them, right? So Killian, we had so many writers in that place, and it just looked like the wall where all the writers were, it looked like you were in a subway, for real. There was two crews rocking at Killian. Right there, keep that piece there, because that's the back of Killian Senior High. Real quick on the top, you have a WL for wheel. You have the Killian piece. You have a GA for my man Ganja. You have my BR, the brim with the trash can. And then Trek did the piece that says Raw Funk from the left in. So Killian Senior High was so ill. And there was two crews. You have Plan B crew, which is our crew, and you have another crew called School Days or Last Straws. Their DJ was DJ Epps, who's a world famous DJ now. We were constantly clashing all the time, battling, but also because there was a lot of respect, because we were the only two crews there. And we'd be promoting house parties. If they promoted a house party, we show up. If we promoted a house party, they show up. And they're asking where Killian is. It's in 104th Street and 112th Ave, maybe. Someone else could put that in there if that's wrong. It's in Miami, Florida, Kendall. So Killian was the hip hop school. Later on, Ground Zero crew came out of Killian. I heard so many people, Serum came out of Killian. Like so many people came out of Killian. But yeah, that was the beginning of it. So because me and my crew were working more on music and focusing on production, we still had the graffiti writers mentality, is go all city. So we were going wherever we could to perform, working with however we can make beats. And eventually we decided it's time to we have to just build our own studio. Under the leadership of my next main mentor. So I had Dunn, who was my first real hip hop mentor. My next real hip hop mentor was a brother named Dion, who had already been involved in the music business for several years as a dancer, rapper, music producer. And he took Plan B under his wings and started teaching us the ropes of the music business. That's right, by the way. I want to see who could drop in the chat if they know whose room I'm in right there. Only the realest of the real know whose room that is. Anyway, let's see if you can get that one there. So we have a studio now, and we're taking the graffiti writer mentality of going all city into actually music. Yeah, there you go. Seal's room. That's right. So we would go ahead and we would work on our demos. We would be performing all over the place. That's me, probably at the age of 18 in my studio. You see that old Mac computer. I have a little Mackie mixing board. DJ Coupe DeVille, who was down with DFC crew, we eventually linked up with him, and he brought a reel-to-reel there. We had an SP1200. It became the place in Kendall for people to come record, and graffiti writers from all over Miami. Terms was there recording. No 7 was there recording. Dunn was there recording. Like, if you were an MC in Kendall, you would eventually pass through the Plan B headquarters to record with us. And just rock with us. My parents were so cool and loving to allow us to have this one room that was just dedicated to studio music and real music. Wait, hold on. Terms, did you paint that Bob Marley? Can you, I think that's right. I think that's right. Anyways, everybody's just going in because that Plan B studio had such a vibe to it. And it was blessing. So many people learned about like music, love, spirituality, protection, poetry. All of that went down in the Plan B crew, in the Plan B house, you know? Eventually, so all the skills that were picked up through Plan B, you know, engineering, production, DJing, graphic art and design, promotions, all that was taken into the next stage of my career. And yo, at any time, can stop me. I don't know if you're trying to stop me or if I'm just going in. You gotta let me know.
No, listen, I think you're flowing. It's amazing. And so what is the next step in your career? Because you sent me a lot of album covers or a lot of album records. And so here we go. These are all your records.
Yeah, so this one, this was dropped in 2003. It was my first full-length album. It featured production by Mr. Long from Black Sheep, who becomes my 3rd hip-hop mentor. And I was already at the time, right before I met Mr. Long, I was kind of just done with hip-hop in terms of like trying to be an artist and perform and all that kind of stuff. And Long just breathed new, fresh air into me. And me and him had a really nice partnership. So he did a track on there. It was all produced, recorded, engineered by myself. And I said, yo, I will never do that again because it's so hard to like switch different hats. Yes, Lebo, big up, big up. Yeah, so Lebo, who's now a world famous artist, did my first album cover. He was really doing like the local cats that were coming out back then, their album covers. He did Spam All Stars album cover. And he was like that cat that was really blowing up at the time. So I got him at the right time. Matter of fact, in my house, I have a collection of, it's like the 6 series of what didn't make it onto the album cover. So I have those like pencil sketches. I love looking at that right there.
So let's go back to some of the older records, because this you said is your first solo record.
Right.
But you also shared these images of this. But let's see what else we got here. This, and then this.
Yeah, so Metamorphosis, the one that Lebo did, was actually my first album cover. The one that you showed, I had released singles and little EPs and things like that leading up to then and done little performances. But this was my first like major, you know, self-produced and released, right? Yeah. Then after that I dropped Elevator Music, which at this time I'd already started doing a lot of work with KRS-One. So KRS is actually on that album. It has a track 2 tracks produced by Doug Infinite, who was like one of my favorite producers of all time, very slept on. Yeah. Yeah, so that was my second album. We actually did the release party at Club Revolution. I was it's like the hip hop advisor at Revolution from around 2007 to 2009 or something like that. And they actually released this album. So they weren't a label or anything, but they went and put out my album, which I give them a lot of respect and thanks for that.
So just to back up a second, Mr. Long, and then you mentioned KRS-One. How does an MC producer from Miami make those kind of connections to even, you know, have a mentor like Mr. Long, or have a producer or have an MC like KRS-One as a collaborator?
Yeah. So that's a great question. I used to work at a place called SAE, the School of Audio Engineering. And Mr. Long started coming around the DJ program, and Jace, who was the DJ instructor, was my DJ, amazing DJ and beatboxer. This dude is unbeatable, man. And Jace is telling me, yo, Long is coming through. And yo, let me tell you, I'm native tongues to the day I live, straight up. The all-time best hip hop, in my opinion, native tongues crew, period. So I'm like, what, Mr. Long? Are you serious? So Long is, he's doing a little introduction to the DJ, and every time Long asks a question, I answer it, and I answer it, and I keep answering every question. And it's because it's not like I'm trying to show off. I'm like, yo, this is my man right here. I'm trying to let him know I know who he is. And then Long's like, yo, he stops in the middle of the class, like, yo, who are you? And I said, I'm Brimstone. And he pulled out his phone. He's like, yo, I've been supposed to call you to get in the studio with you. So we knew right there, okay, it's one of those moments in life where it just happens. So me and Long just started building for years to come. Matter of fact, just real quick, as part of all of hip hop culture and history, Mr. Long and I partnered up with Speedy Legs, another hip hop mentor of mine, and we started throwing these Bridge the Gap events. And they were these, Legs was doing these dollar jams in Miami Beach. You would pay $1 and dance on a Friday night, like 7 to 10, 7 to 11. It was a dope vibe. If it wasn't for those jams, we would not have the B-boy scene we have today. Some of the best B-boys and B-girls in the world were at those spots dancing. And it wasn't dancing to battle, it was a jam. So, so now to talk about the KRS-One, so I've known from the time I was like 14 or 15, I had dreams and visions about working with KRS-One. I'll tell you one real quick. I was inside like this open amphitheater. Just the sun is blazing down on me, and I'm just looking down like this. And I see this huge black hand reach down towards me. And I look up, and it's KRS, and he like pulls me up. And he's like, yo, just keep trotting, doing what you're doing. And I'm 14 or 15. So I don't meet him another, I don't even know, 10, 15, whatever years later. And so he comes to perform in Miami now. This is, I think, like 2002 at a place called the I.O. Lounge. I'm someone who doesn't like cigarette smoke. I don't like really clubs and the drinking and all that. So they said KRS is performing Friday night, and I knew I wanted to meet him. I knew I was destined to meet him. I was like, you know what? I'm just going to fall back. If it's meant to be, it's meant to be. So I get a call Saturday, and it's this brother named Tony Muhammad, and he's like, yo, I'm organizing a panel. I want you to be on it to talk with KRS-One. So boom, as soon as that happened, you know, everybody had their opportunity to speak and share. It's when KRS-One first introduced to me the idea that hip hop culture is actually a culture that's represented by the United Nations and accepted. In 2001 was accepted as a real culture. And that's what he was professing from his mouth. And I never heard anything like that. So it just piqued my interest. What I did that night was I recorded his lectures. I took his lectures and just I chopped them up and put them to beats, right? And I was like, I don't know what this is gonna do, but I'm gonna just try to do something. So I did this little 6-track EP called KRS-One Lectures on Wax. Trying to get a hold of him, trying to get a hold of his people, his wife. No one's returning calls. I felt like a year or longer passed by. And I said, okay, this is the last time I'm gonna try, and then I'm done. I called, I caught Simone, who's his wife. She said, I'll have Chris call you. And one day I'm just there in my car, in the car seat, laying down, the phone rings, I jump up. He says, this is KRS-One for Brimstone. Boom. I said, wow. Right there, the connection started and the work started. We planned a first South Florida tour for him where he just came down and did a few spot dates, including lectures, and it was all about building the hip hop community. I really want to big up Tony Muhammad for the work he did. Like he really helped get Chris here and help preserve hip hop culture, Urban America newspaper. So after doing that kind of work, KRS actually asked me if I would be the the Florida representative for the Temple of Hip Hop. And I took that position proudly and ran it for a few years, which basically I had all the affairs that KRS had or the Temple had in Florida. I would have some sort of responsibility in making sure they happen.
Amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Truly an amazing story of just your drive and your perseverance to just connect and to be of service. Because you really, you came out, you do the 6-track EP, and you just want to share that with this man or this, legendary figure in the hip hop community, and it works.
Amen. Yeah.
right? And in a major way. I'm imagining beyond your own imagination of what would have happened.
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
so what was that like for you? You know, what did you walk away with?
Man. Um, well, I would have late night conversations with him and he'd allow me to record them. So first of all, I have in my possession a 13-hour interview or 11-hour interview of Karis One's life, like his whole life. He sat down with me and told me his whole life story and allowed me to record the whole thing of me interviewing him. I still have that. So I have the story of Scott LaRock and why he became vegetarian, all those things. Um, we start. I told him I wanted to organize hip hop community, and he said to me, "He's like, yo, it's one of the hardest things to do, but if you have it, and this is your vision," and we would talk late nights about what that looks like, what it is, and he eventually said, "Yo, I give you my blessing, go and do it." Like that's what he ended up saying to me. I don't think I've seen him since that day, and I had, and then comes Path.
Amazing. And so does he know that Path exists?
We have a lot of people in common, so I'm absolutely certain he does.
Okay.
It exists because, big part because of his those evening conversations, without a doubt.
Incredible. So in this piece, Elevator Music, you know, you mentioned before Lebo doing the artwork. What's up with this artwork? Can you break it down for us? Because I think it's very intentional. There's something important that's being said here.
Absolutely. So first of all, this album cover is done by my brother Jacob Schere in Japan, Tokyo. What up? What up? You already know what it is. So the idea was elevator music, music that elevates you, that elevates your soul. So if you see, you have this blueprint of like these escalators and elevators and pulleys and things going up and down. You have the typical graffiti, you know, on the elevator doors, and you have kind of people, you know, roaming around and not really knowing when they're going in different languages and, you know, maps and things of that nature. It was about how do you navigate through all that to get up to the top. And the top is represented by some animals, some sheep, some very peaceful animals. How do you reach that green grass and lay in peace? And that's what that album was about.
Amazing. So, you know, you've taken us through, I don't know, 20 years of your history. And I feel like there's still another 15 to cover. Totally incredible. And so you move from the graffiti world, which I know we're on a graffiti forum here, and people expect more of that. But I think that you're doing, you know, and have been doing since back then, so much important work as an organizer, as a leader in this community. So I want to jump into that. And, you know, I'm sorry that I might disappoint some of the folks out there that want to just look at history of graffiti, but your journey has been one that you've been touching all these different people in all these different ways. And so we're going to keep it going. And just to reset for everybody to know that, you know, people are jumping in a little bit later into this conversation. My name is Alan Kett. This is Brimstone. We are here talking about Brimstone's history as a writer, as an engineer, as an MC, as a producer, as a community leader, as an organizer, and as a member of the hip hop community. And a lot of times when we get into these conversations, we're not talking about hip hop, we're just talking about graffiti, because for many people, that's it. They're in that particular zone. But your particular life and your journey is different. It's taken you in a lot of different directions. And so we're going to get into that.
Okay.
And so thank you everybody for being with us. Let's jump back into it. And so we're in the music zone here with you, and you're an MC. So what are you rhyming about? You know, you're saying you're elevating us, right? It's like music to elevate your spirit, your soul. What is that like? You know, tell us a little bit about what you were, you know, sending out there, and what was the you know, I don't have it, so I can't share it. Otherwise, I'll play it for us right now.
I would say, to me, music has always been spiritual. growing up and even going to temple and hearing singing and associating that certain styles of singing goes with a spiritual connection. So even when I would rhyme, I would always try and connect my rhymes to things that were spiritual, no matter what I was rhyming about. And regardless of what my idea of spirituality was at the time or is now, it was about stay positive, stay uplifting, encourage others, stay encouraged. That was the message of our rhymes. And we were heavily influenced by like the rhymes of Melly Mel or the songs of Bob Marley and doing all that in rhyme form. So taking like the street side and the other street side and putting it into music.
Amazing. And so in this particular album, I see the Renaissance of hip hop,
Right.
and you have a Renaissance painting, but there's burners all around
Right.
this temple.
Yeah.
And so again, you're connecting your music back into the language of hip hop and the language of graffiti, sort of still remaining fully connected to the hip hop movement.
Right. Right. And not only just burners, if you could zoom in on that cat in the B-boy stance, right?
Oh yeah.
That right there. Scroll down a little bit. That right there that's JR, the Roomba King. That's our homie from way back. If you
Right
see this
there.
other cat, he's holding the Paid in Full album cover. If you go a few over to the right, we have someone else that's holding a BDP album cover. So this album was designed by the Brass King and my brother Jacob. Again, they worked on it collaboratively. I love the album cover. I'm personally not crazy about like the style of the font, but I love the album cover. The idea, what they did together and hiding those pieces. You know, a cat got gazelles on. You know, it's a real interesting piece.
It is
I
a
love
real
that.
interesting piece. And, you know, it's funny that I see this and it reminds me of a bit of what Bicciabo, these guys out in Europe do, and how they paint and they try to bring this vibe out into the world today. And, you know, when you were doing this, it wasn't in a vacuum. People were hearing about it. You know, you were, you know, getting press and you were being acknowledged in the world for what you were doing.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, I think it's because, one, obviously because I'm white, that makes me stand out. So there's some sort of privilege there. But what I recognize for real is everybody was trying to go to South Beach and get recognized and perform in South Beach. And they felt like if they were on South Beach, they made it. To me, our understanding was let's go to where the real people are gathering. And we were going to Tobacco Road. We were going to little bars and little clubs that we would just turn out where they would play rock music and we would jump on and rhyme. And we got so much love for doing that. And when I would perform, it wouldn't be just me. I'd have a DJ. I'd have dancers. I would have Crave sometimes doing a live piece or another writer doing something. We'd have routines. So we would have skits and we would put on a full show. Yeah, that's me and Rock Raider. Got to rock with him, which was amazing. Amazing. Grandmaster DJ Rock Raider, man. Rest in peace. So yeah, just having hip hop opens up so many doors for your, you know, like your dreams to just happen wherever, whatever direction you want your dream to go. You know what I'm saying?
Amazing. And I'm just gonna, you know, scroll through a few of these images because you're able to connect with the Awesome Two.
Yeah, the Awesome Two, Special K and Teddy Ted. They came down to a club. Okay, so my cousin, take it back to 1992. My cousin, his name is Jeff. He opened a club. Well, there was a place called I don't even remember the name. It's where they were showing the Rocky Horror Picture Show. I don't know the name of it. It was on 32nd and Grand in Coconut Grove. My cousin Jeff worked out a deal that we can guru. That's right. What's up, Bash? My cousin Jeff said, let's work out a deal and let's start doing Saturday nights there. And so we started throwing, it wasn't the first hip hop club in the Grove because there was ones many years before, but this was the place now where North Miami and South Miami came together as we all the entire hip hop community fit in that one room, a small room, Grove Cinema. Thank you, BMK, you already know. So in that, we had DJ Chris, the Power Enforcer, right? You had DJ Coupe de Ville. You had DJ Epps, DJ Rook. And every writer, every rapper, every DJ, everyone, CHP crew, before they were really popping, Crazy Productions was in the house. Like everyone was in that one little room. You know what I'm saying? And here's a great story about that. It's 1992. They're going to have a DJ battle. It's DJ Epps, if I remember correctly, DJ Epps versus Coupe de Ville versus Rook versus a brand new DJ named DJ Craze, and no one really knew who he was. So Craze comes on first. He goes and he starts killing it and doing all this craziness. He was a little kid. I think it was 14. And by the time he was done, Cats was like, tonight we're just gonna have a showcase. It's not gonna be a battle. Thank you for coming out. And up next is, and it was just like, damn. And that was Craze's first show right there at the zoo. And
wow.
Y'all know he's world, and we laugh about that every time we see each other, man. World champion right there, yo.
Literally the world champion.
Absolutely, three times. Absolutely. Yeah, there's me, Crazy, and Mr. Mix from 2 Live Crew.
There you go. And that there he is as an adult right there.
Yep. And that right there, so that's the Brass King BK on the left, DJ EFN in the middle, me, and then Garcia also. Garcia, who's from CHP Crew, has gone on to do huge things producing music videos for everyone. He just did the Poison video for Busta Rhymes. I recorded Garcia's first demo ever. Like, that's how far back we go with with other people in our community, because CHP Crew's from Kendall. So they were like, after Plan B, they were like, because they were on the west side, they were more west, we weren't too familiar with what they were doing until a little bit later on. When after the zoo is when we started seeing, personally, I remember seeing CHP popping up was after the zoo. But I remember their whole crew being there at the zoo. That's me and Maceo from Daylight. I got to do a lot of work with him also.
So, you know, as you know, we have about 10 minutes left, and we have to jump into Path.
Let's do it.
We have to jump into Path. It's such an important organization. How did Path come to be? Okay.
Year 2008, I'm invited to the Miami Light Project to have a discussion about they wanted to have me do some DJ classes at a local community center. I was like, that's great, but what do you think about a hip hop summer program? It was just something I've been thinking about. They're like, yes, let's do it. It was December. So we're coming into the new year. Now we're coming into 2008, the new year. They secured funding. We had the first year of the Path Hip Hop Summer Academy. The DJ instructor was DJ Immortal from Scratch DJ Academy. The B-boy, B-girl teacher was B-girl Beta, sorry. The MC was MC Soulflower, and the graffiti writer was Crave Art. So Crave. So we had those four helping teach hip hop culture. It was a 4-week program. I remember on day one, when I got in before anyone else, I'm just kind of like DJing, having some fun. And this dude just jumped in, young kid, just hit the floor and started breaking. And his name was Doshu. I said, that's exactly the energy we need every day. And this dude, he just embodied hip hop culture. And so it was a 4-week program, a summer academy. By the end of it, the last day I realized, I felt like, I felt like Lee at the end of Wild Style, just standing up, looking over at that final jam and saying, wow, I'm onto something big. First hip hop summer program that I'm aware of that, enveloped all the elements. So come around year 2, it's cut down to a 1-week program due to funding. But I meet this young lady named Natalie, who's very interested in community work. She was doing a lot of community work. So I invited her to come check out Path. And she hung out and did some volunteering. And at the end of the program, this is the Hip Hop Summer Academy 2nd program, she says to me, what are you teaching these youth? I'm like, yo, teaching them hip hop, they're rhyming, DJing. She's like, no, what are you teaching them? I'm like, what do you mean, what am I teaching them? And she's like, what are you teaching them skills that they can take away and earn a living with? And I never thought about it. To me, it was just have fun, get art. I had an opportunity to have a job doing what I love. So I had to really fall back and listen to what this woman, Natalie, who eventually became my wife and now is the executive director of the program, running it now strong together we're on our 14th year.
That's incredible.
So right there, so PATH stands for Preserving, Archiving, and Teaching Hip Hop. We love working with the pioneers as Grandmaster Kaz and Popmaster Fable, and me and my wife there. We have 4 main programs. We work youth program, substance abuse prevention and intervention, community programming, and then our archiving program. So to start from the back, the archiving program consists of collecting unique artifacts from hip hop culture. So we have local works, pioneer works, When we come to community, it's other, other organizations in the community, such as your Art Talks program. If we come and collaborate with Museum of Graffiti for the Art Talks program, that's our community program. Then we have our Sappy program, which stands for Substance Abuse Prevention and Intervention. It's using hip hop culture and hip hop modalities to teach tools about how to stay sober. So we've opened up recording studios, music production studios to help people stay sober. And then the first one is the youth program, such as our Hip Hop Summer Academy. We have a winter intensive, we have a spring intensive, and we focus on the age group 13 to 19, because when you're younger than that, you have a lot to do. When you're that age, if you're not into sports, there's not really much for you to do during the summer. So that's the youth group we use, and that's a great photo in the Museum of Graffiti. I see Ket, you already know what it is. Let's go.
So, incredible work. And how many years running now?
14, since 2008.
14 years of community work and youth work. That's an incredible commitment.
Give thanks to God be the glory, my brother.
An incredible commitment. And so it continues. You're doing it. I saw you guys this year, and you visit the Museum of Graffiti, and we're partnering up and doing things together. And so, we're going to start to wind this down. And so, I want to announce that as a result of the Museum of Graffiti loving and believing in the work that you do, with Path and in general, and it's a mutual thing that we've been building on. You're going to be taking over these art talks on Thursdays to focus on, in particular, Miami history. And so the history that you're sharing with us today is very important to us to learn about, because we're here, we're local, but it's also very important to share with the entire world, because Miami's on the map. Miami has been on the map. Mm-hmm. And I could not find a better person to partner with to do that, other than yourself, who has so much passion, knowledge, openness, and love for this culture. And so I want to share that with everybody, because next time when people turn on, they might see me on a Tuesday, but they'll be seeing you on a Thursday, and you're going to be inviting on amazing guests. And so I'm very happy that you're going to be on board building with us and doing these interviews, so that you can really get into this important history for this city. And so thank you for that.
Yo, Brother Ket, it's an honor, it's humbling, and it's just an opportunity for me to serve the community. Let's tell the real story of Miami hip hop history. Everybody share what happened. You may have a different understanding, a different recollection. We're not going to be biased. When there's a committee of people that will decide who gets their interview, and everyone eventually will get an opportunity to tell their story. So let it be an opportunity for us to really capture and save this story of Miami graffiti and Miami hip hop history. And I thank you for the platform to do it, my brother, for real.
Word. And so we want to capture those stories, and we want to magnify it. We want to preserve those stories for history's sake, because as we get older, our memories might seem to fade a bit. And so we want to capture it now, while we have the platform, while we have the energy, and while we have the ability to do it. So thank you for that. We've got about 2 minutes left. You said that you had a rhyme you wanted to spit.
Even before Beat Street, I thought it'd be sweet to kick off my Puma sneaks and dance in the street. But everybody's saying that I can't do that. White kids from the suburbs, they don't rap. We're the fact or fiction. The turntable friction had me on a mission. I used to love to listen to the African boom bap bassing out the system. But then it started switching to singing and stuff. So I got a skateboard because I had enough. Now it's all about me cruising down the concrete. A young soul rebel with rebellion in me. I met a graffiti writer named D-O-N-E. Check on what this brother told me. Hip hop is doing great. So he passed me on a Red Alert mixtape. Yeah. From 1988, or was it 1989? It doesn't really matter, because them MCs really rhyme. So I find myself indulging in graffiti art. Brimstone 127 STV crew, you don't stop. Brimstone 127 Path crew, you don't stop. I dedicate my life to God and the culture of hip hop. And I won't stop. I can't stop. Museum of Graffiti, let's rock.
Word up. Killed it. Thank you for that. Mr. Brimstone, it's an honor to have you on here. It was a pleasure to hear your story and an honor to hear your story. Thank you much. Thank you so much for sharing it with us. We love your energy. We love your work. We're very happy to collaborate. And for everybody that was on here with us for the past hour, thank you so much for joining us. And thank you so much for donating to the Museum of Graffiti. We appreciate each and every one of you that comes on here and listens to us and builds with us and learns as I'm learning in these art talks. And
Yeah,
so,
man.
Mr. Brim,
Mm-hmm.
we're gonna keep it going. Any last words that you want to share with the folks out there?
I really do. I'm grateful for everyone that tuned in, and that was it's a blessing for all y'all to be here. All the people, I mean, I'm seeing so many people that I just would love to jump out and hug in this COVID time. Everyone, please be safe. You know, that's it, man. Do the best you can, because the times ahead of us, we have to really be strengthened, and we have to be able to believe in something. So find that thing and do it.
Indeed. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Brim. We'll see each other very soon.
All right.
Peace, everybody.
Peace. One love, y'all.